Welcome back under southern skies, everyone. How many times as an astrophotographer or amateur astronomer have you wondered whether you've discovered something new? I think even the most grounded of us will sometimes have an experience where we think, geez, I wonder whether I've got something here that hasn't been noticed before. Well, this is my story of the time I thought that just a month ago. So, it all started out when I was looking through Telescopius, looking for dark nebulae or fainter nebulae, something interesting to image that wasn't one of the more popular targets, just for something different. And I noticed there was a little knot of HA in Scorpius, kind of away from the prawn, and I decided to take a look at it. And of course, had no designation of its own when I had a look in Stellarium, but that's nothing new. Even when I turned on all the catalogues, often the fainter objects aren't shown in Stellarium, or at least the version that I'm using. So I didn't let that dissuade me. I did, in fact, last year take a little bit of HA on the particular knot of HA that I had seen in Telescopius. I took some image of it and took a bit more of a look. The image did plate solve, however there was no designation given. I also would at the time have had a look in Worldwide Telescope by clicking the link, and also found no designations given for the particular objects or features in the image that I was looking at. So fast forward to this year, and with Scorpius coming back around, I decided to have a go with a wider field of view. I'd been interested to try a wider field of view for a while. So it was really when processing a HSS render of that field of view that that I noticed not only was the knot of HA that I had originally noticed that still interested me and was starting to show some detail, but also down in the lower right I noticed what looked like maybe there was some sort of bubble, stellar bubble happening there, and I wondered whether that could be an uncatalogued nebula as well. So once again, a plate solve, Worldwide Telescope, yep, still no designation showing. I also took a look in AladinLite just to see whether anything was showing up in there. And although it uses, at least one of the surveys in AladinLite is the same survey apparently that astrometry uses, that the same survey that Telescopius uses, not seeing any designations. I ran a plate solve in PixInsight since that facility is available to me, and once again I got the Mothwing cluster, NGC6281, but RCW120 in the top left wasn't designated, and certainly no designations given to the two features that were interesting to me. So I was starting to get a little bit excited now, thinking maybe for some reason maybe these features had been overlooked. I even went as far as looking at the International Astronomical Union website to find out how to report a new discovery. Naturally, their processes, the processes they quote, are a lot faster for things that are moving quickly, like asteroids, comets, planets, anything that could be here and gone. For things that move more slowly, like nebulae, you basically need to publish a paper in a peer-reviewed journal, and that's not a particularly easy thing for amateurs like me to do. Although I did ask a couple of friends, as well as going to social media, and I didn't realize it at the time, but it was in fact in Facebook, in an amateur astrophotography page, where the answer to my question was actually provided. Here in Porrick's response, he doesn't know it, I don't know it, but he has actually named the nebula and the star that's of interest to astronomers in this field of view. I also posted on Instagram And I wrote to a couple of people saying, I think I found an uncatalogued bubble in Scorpius. How do you think we would go about finding out? I still wasn't convinced. So this time when I plate solved the image in PixInsight, I turned on the Tycho catalogue. And it was only then, when I got the designation of the star that looked like it was in the middle of the bubble, and then ran a Google search on that designation, that I started to get some answers. And in fact, the Google search didn't show a lot of results, but the one that mattered was the HD designation in the Simbad astronomical database. And further to that, when I clicked on that link and explored what Simbad had to offer, I discovered that something I hadn't realized before, which is that it will actually perform an academic literature search for all articles that have referenced the object you have searched. And that's where things got really interesting. I discovered that this particular star, HD 153426, which is the designation given to the star in the HD catalogue as opposed to Tycho, has been of interest to astronomers for at least a couple of reasons. One reason of which it's an example of a slow O star. The second reason it's been included in studies alongside hundreds of other stars performing similar or delivering similar behavior and characteristics is that it has a bow shock, and that bow shock is probably the main arc in which I thought was a bubble. Maybe it's not an entire bubble, maybe it's a bow shock. I still didn't have an answer, though, from looking over these references as to whether the nebulosity itself had a designation or not. But there was something in my mind that turned a light on, and I went back to Porrick's Facebook comment, and I discovered that star designation had actually been included in his comment when he was quoting from a website called Galaxy Map. And in that quote, Galaxy Map has referred to RCW 119A and GUM 57A. Now, Porrick included the whole quote. So what that meant was I was able to search in Galaxy Map for RCW 119A. I got the picture. When I put my picture next to it, they're quite clearly the same object. They are referencing the same central star, so that's, I guess, a bit of triangulation. And there's my answer, RCW 119A or GUM 57A. Now, not a new discovery for the planet after all, just a new discovery for me. Just for a bit of extra interest or a little bit of salt in the wounds for the competitively minded, when I actually searched up the GUM 57A, I was actually taken to an article written by GUM where he details his observations that led to his inclusion of this particular nebulosity in the catalogue, and that article was actually published in 1955. So I was only something like perhaps 70 years too late in my discovery. But there you go. It actually took the whole process of going from thinking I'd made a discovery right through to confirming that I hadn't, took a couple of weeks, obviously not full-time working, but a couple of weeks of interest and sleuthing, and eventually coming up with an answer to the question, and along the way finding out a couple of interesting facts about that particular part of space that I have been imaging. I'll bet there are loads of you tuning into this who also have had experiences like this. Maybe you have other techniques and other sources that you go to when you're trying to identify interesting objects in your images that you're wondering might be new discoveries, or that you're just trying to find out more about. Feel free to let us know in the comments about your methods, and until next time, clear skies.